Ghostbusters Afterlife, or Ghostbusters 4, or Super 8 2, or Stranger Things 5, or who cares? When a single mom and her two kids arrive in a small town, they begin to discover their connection to the original Ghostbusters and the secret legacy their grandfather left behind. I love the original Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is one of those films that my generation seems to be very equated with. They love it, even though it came out in the early 80s, and most of us were born in either the early or late 90s. And it just shows how great that original film was. And Ivan Reitman directed the original Ghostbusters. Jason Reitman, his son, directed Ghostbusters Afterlife. And I thought that was really interesting. Jason Reitman is a good director, and he's directing a Ghostbusters movie. And I thought that was very intriguing. I was excited to see what he could do with this universe, this franchise, considering his father was the one that kickstarted all of it. That's the first thing I'll talk about with Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think it looks great. I think it's directed pretty well. I think Jason Reitman did a good job. I also like the fact that the style feels different from the original Ghostbusters. It's not completely different, but it does have a different tone than original Ghostbusters. It's weird to see such different styles of directing when it's father and son. You'd think it'd be about the same, but I was surprised by the differences, and I think it worked. But the best part about this film, by far, is McKenna Grace. She is outstanding here. She was fantastic. She absolutely carries this film. She plays this lovable, nerdy outcast, and she absolutely steals every scene she's in. And Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. He's Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. But that's all I liked about Ghostbusters Afterlife. I was very disappointed with this film. Not because I had super high expectations. I wasn't expecting like the greatest sequel ever made or anything like that. The reason I'm disappointed is because it seemed like there might have been an interesting story here. There are some characters that you relate to, you like. But this film, unapologetically, relies on so many Easter eggs and just straight nostalgia. I mean, it is unbearing how much shit they just throw at you. Like, you remember this? Oh, you don't remember this? How about this? Do you fucking remember this? How about this? Like, we get it. Ghostbusters was a fun comedy in the 80s. One of the most iconic comedies ever. There's a lot of fun elements to that film. And I get that Ghostbusters Afterlife is a sequel to that. So there's gonna be elements from the original film in here. But this film just felt like if it wanted to be fun or succeed, it had to rely on just those elements. Just the nostalgia. I don't mean this in a negative way, but there's such a simple story and plot here. You have your character. She's a nerd. She's an outcast. She's lovable. You instantly connect to her. There's a mystery going around. You're interested by that. Then the creators of the film felt like we wouldn't connect to that or be entertained by that. So they just throw in all this fucking bullshit from the original film to keep us entertained. But I'll say this. There are some fun nostalgic elements to this film. Some of the sound effects, the score. It was fun to see some of these things back on the screen. But it got to the point where there was so much of it that it was the worst part about this film. And that's a bummer. And then something happens towards the end that I can't talk about because it's spoilers, but I really want to talk about because I really don't know how I feel about it. I understand what they're going for, and I understand who's created this film, and they helped create the original one, and the relationships and all that. I get that. But it felt like a massive misfire. Like, I was in awe that they did something at the end of the film that I heard rumors they might do, and then they did, and I was just like, I can't believe they did that. I guess I don't know how to talk about this because it's spoilers, and also I really don't know how I feel about it. I guess we'll see what people think. I mean, my audience felt very mixed about it. It seemed like half of the theater was like, wow, that was pretty great. And the other half was like, what the fuck? So I guess we'll see. But I don't know. I mean, what the fuck do I know? Ghostbusters Afterlife felt like a misfire that relied too much on nostalgia and Easter eggs. I think the film is directed well and it looks good. It's pretty cool that Jason Reitman directed this film and Ivan Reitman directed the original Ghostbusters. I mean, that's still pretty cool. McKenna Grace was outstanding here. She was by far the best part about the film, and she absolutely carries the whole entire movie. Some of the nostalgia is fun, sure, but that is the worst part about this film because it relies so much on it. They're never subtle about it. They basically just throw so much fucking shit in your face. Like, you fucking remember this? Fucking Ghostbusters, guys. Remember the 80s? It was so much fucking fun. I mean, I've seen plenty of films that are either remakes or reboots that rely heavily on nostalgia, and it never really works out. And here was one of the worst cases I have ever seen. Nothing about it was subtle. There's way too much of it. It seemed like there might have been an interesting story here in this little town, but the studio got scared that the audience wouldn't be entertained unless we were throwing so much Ghostbuster shit on screen. And unfortunately, that became the worst part about the film. Yes, the worst part about Ghostbusters Afterlife was there was too much Ghostbuster shit in here. And I know, that doesn't make any fucking sense. But it really felt like the studio threw all these Easter eggs and nostalgia in the film because they were scared this film wouldn't stand on its own. I'll give Ghostbusters Afterlife 4.5 Davy Daves. I really wish this film worked out because I rewatched the original, forgot how great it was, and it would have been cool to see a refreshing new take on it. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But from the post-credit scenes, obviously no spoilers, it looks like we're going to get more Ghostbusters films. And I honestly have no idea where they're going to go. And honestly, at this point, I guess I don't know how I feel about it. So, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Let me know what you guys thought of it. If you've seen it, I'm curious to hear. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Davey Dave's Takes.